I'd kind of forgotten until I was just talking to Julia then about the conversation I had with an Iranian taxi driver 2 days ago. We were talking about this, and he was saying that if you are caught, and he went through a sort of detailed kind of spectrum of sentences that are handed out specifically on the issue of knife crime. But he said if you were caught with a knife and you were in a situation that looked as if you were about to be confrontational with the knife, then you would be looking at about 20 years in jail. So with that in mind, how does that sit with Yvette Cooper's great new plan to have a two-step verification on the Amazon? People trying to buy knives online will face tougher measures to prove their age under new restrictions being brought forward in the wake of the Southport attacks. We know, of course, that Axel Rudakubana has admitted to murdering 3 girls. He will be sentenced tomorrow. A knife purchased on Amazon when he was just 17. Despite existing laws which prohibit the sale of most knives to under 18s, online retailers will be forced to ask anyone buying a knife for 2 types of ID under government plans, with buyers asked to submit an identity document like a passport and record a live video to prove their age. Yeah. I don't know where to begin in identifying the multifarious flaws in this half-baked, frankly stupid idea. There is already a verification in most reasonable places. There are some outlets, I think John Lewis, you can't buy a knife online. On Amazon, you've got to show ID when the bloke turns up to deliver it. I don't know how much is attached to that. But of course, the bottom line, regardless of what you... I mean, really, is anybody who's intent on murder really going to struggle to get hold of a knife? Is that going to be the flaw in their murderous plans when they worked out who they wanted to kill and what they wanted to do, or the deeds they wanted to carry out with a blade? Are they going to suddenly go at the end of it? They'd mapped out their entire criminal murderous journey and they suddenly go, oh, I haven't got a knife. Oh, I'll cancel what I'm about to do. That ain't going to go anywhere. Tougher sentences will not always be the answer. I'm kind of forced to imagine that the person responsible for Southport, I don't want to keep name-checking this man, I don't imagine whether he and many others actually cared if they were caught. In those kind of crimes, the perpetrator is so often easily caught. So that's one of the irredeemable realities about this. People are either relaxed about getting caught, they're not bothered, they're so messed up, their world is so screwed in so many different ways that getting collared by the old bill isn't really the issue. Go to prison, fine, fine, I don't care. Or they're people who genuinely don't believe they will get caught. If you look at most teen murders, and a lot of knife crime is teen on teen, and it's mostly young boys that are affected in, not exclusively. If you look at those kind of stories, again, they're often solved very quickly, often occurring in broad daylight as well. We've been hearing just today of a 12-year-old boy fatally stabbed in Birmingham. A 14-year-old has been arrested on suspicion of murder. Can't say too much about it as a result of that. But a 12-year-old kid stabbed in broad daylight. We know, of course, of the story of Kellyanne Bokassa, stabbed to death on a bus in Woolwich. These are all recent incidents. We know that the case of Eliane Andam, who was stabbed, a 15-year-old was stabbed, the perpetrator found guilty of murder just a week or so ago. These things are happening all the time. What is the solution to knife crime? Now, I think the starting point is that teens in particular are fully aware, somewhere in their subconscious mind, they might be thinking, I've got some bravado here, I'm not going to get caught. The idea of being the kind of tough gang member kind of trumps and usurps any sort of logic or handbrake that most people would have. But in addition to that, I think some of these kids are painfully aware that if they are caught carrying a knife, nothing is going to happen. And it never does. I don't know how many times I can come to the table, come to the microphone and make the same point. I've interviewed almost every Home Secretary since Jack Straw, and some of the others that went before him, by the way. And every one of them has made the point, we're going to get tough on knife crime. Every single time, we're going to get tough on knife crime. Nobody ever got tough on knife crime. Nobody ever said, if you are caught carrying a blade in the street, we're going to have mass stop and search. It will be random. You will not know whether your town or postcode is selected for stop and search on this particular. You will have no idea. But we're going to descend on areas. The intel tells us there's kids out there that are doing some bad stuff. We know that knives are a big issue. We're going to turn out. And if you are caught carrying a blade, you are going to jail for 5 years based on just carrying the blade. And remember, these kids are not carrying around a Stanley knife. They're carrying around flipping machetes and those other kind of zombie knives, all manner of the sort of thing that looks like something out of Game of Thrones. I mean, these are horrendous weapons. And they do this without caring. They're often caught on CCTV walking around, waving these damn things. So until we get serious on the penalties for carrying them, I honestly think, and I don't think this would apply to Southport, sadly. I don't know what the answer is to Southport, and I'm tempted, and I hate saying this, tempted to think that there is no answer to a mad person going violently berserk in the street, in this case in a kid's holiday club, or anywhere else for that matter. I don't know if any sort of legislation is likely to make much of a difference for those kind of crimes, but I am absolutely sure that having a message that you could be stopped and the penalty just for carrying the damn thing is going to be extensive, and it's going to be 5 years. I honestly believe the proliferation of people carrying these things is in part because there are no consequences for carrying it. There's no taboo in carrying it. There's only kudos among your friends.